Mayday! Mayday! Rescue 14, we're going down! The radio was noisy and full of static, but the voice was clear. A young pilot, panicked, and then silence. Captain Richard Rick Callahan, 68 years old, a retired combat search and rescue (CSR) pilot, stood in the living room of his Colorado home, radio receiver in hand, his face white as a sheet. That voice was his son's, Lieutenant Jake Callahan, 32 years old, active duty search and rescue pilot, Rick's everything. And now, Jake was missing. Rick looked out the window. The Rocky Mountains had disappeared into a blizzard, wind 80 miles per hour, visibility 0, temperature minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. On his phone, a message from Colorado Air National Guard. Captain Callahan, we've lost contact with your son. Rescue operation initiated, but weather conditions are critical. Could take 6 to 12 hours. 6 to 12 hours. In that time, Jake would freeze to death. Rick put on his jacket, grabbed his keys, and walked out the door. Welcome to Veterans Tales. Before we dive into this powerful story of respect, justice, and hidden identity, let us know in the comments which state you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like these deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these memories alive. It was 18 hours earlier. Trans Mountain Airlines, Flight 447, Denver to Seattle, Boeing 737-800, passengers 78, crew 4, total 82 people. The pilot, Captain Lisa Morgan, was experienced, 15,000 flight hours. But over the Rocky Mountains, the weather suddenly deteriorated. Denver Control, Trans Mountain 447, severe turbulence, we're losing altitude. TM 447, copy, climb to 20,000 feet. We can't climb, engine 2 failure, mayday, mayday. The plane went out of control, started falling from 35,000 feet. Passengers screamed, oxygen masks dropped. Captain Morgan fought with all her strength, tried to level the aircraft, but it was too late. The plane crashed into a plateau at 12,500 feet in the Rocky Mountains. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, in Denver immediately took action. Trans Mountain 447 lost from radar. Last position, Rocky Mountains, near Pikes Peak. Initiate rescue operation. Colorado Air National Guard assigned their search and rescue, SAR, team. Lieutenant Jake Callahan was assigned to the team. He received the weather report, blizzard, wind 70 miles per hour, visibility under 100 feet. Sir, weather's really bad. We might need to postpone the operation, Jake said to his commander. Callahan, there are 82 people on that plane. No postponement. Take off immediately. Jake nodded. Understood, sir. Helicopter, Sikorsky, HH-60, Pave Hawk. Crew, Jake, pilot, co-pilot, Lieutenant Sarah Mills, 2 paramedics. Jake boarded the helicopter, started the engine, rotors spun, and he flew toward the Rocky Mountains. The storm was worse than predicted. Snow stuck to the windshield. Wind shook the helicopter. Jake, visibility's dropped to 0, Sarah shouted. We're trusting instruments, Jake said calmly. Coordinates, 38.8 degrees north, 105.0 degrees west, 5 miles out. The helicopter descended, 10,000 feet, 9,000 feet. Jake, wind shear, we're losing control. The helicopter lurched right, Jake corrected. Sweat poured down his forehead. I see the wreckage, a paramedic shouted. Below, 8,500 feet. Jake brought the helicopter closer to the crash site. The plane had broken in 2. The front section was buried in snow. The rear section lay 200 feet away. Sarah, we're going down. Get ready. But just then, wind created a vortex. The helicopter lost control. Jake, tail rotor damaged. Mayday, mayday. Rescue 14, we're going down. Rick sat at home. The news was on TV. Plane crash in Rocky Mountains, 82 people missing. His phone rang. Colorado Air National Guard. Captain Callahan, this is Major Henderson. Your son, Jake. Rick's heart stopped. What happened? Jake's helicopter went down on the way to the crash site. We've lost radio contact with him. What? Sir, we're sending a second rescue team, but weather conditions are very bad. Could take 6 to 12 hours. Rick hung up. His hands trembled, but his mind was clear. Jake's out there, freezing. I'm going. Rick went to his private hangar outside Colorado Springs. Inside sat a Bell 407 helicopter. In retirement, Rick ran private rescue operations, saving climbers, skiers, getting paid. But now, it wasn't about money. It was his son. He boarded the helicopter, started the engine, but his phone rang. Major Henderson. Rick, don't do this. Weather conditions are lethal. You're 68 years old. This is a suicide mission. Major, that's my son. Rick, please. Rick hung up and took off. As the helicopter entered the storm, Rick's world trembled. The hangar disappeared. The storm disappeared. And Rick returned to 1995. Hospital, Colorado Springs, 1995. Young Rick Callahan, 38 years old, stood in the hospital delivery room. His wife, Emily, lay in bed, exhausted but happy. In her arms, a newborn baby, Jake. Rick, Emily said, smiling, our son, Jake Callahan. Rick took the baby in his arms, so small, so vulnerable. I promise you, Rick said, looking at the baby. I'll always protect you. Always. Now, 2025. Rick opened his eyes. He was back, in the helicopter, in the storm. Jake, wait. Dad's coming. The storm was savage. Rick used his 40 years of experience, but this was the worst. Wreckage coordinates, 38.8 degrees north, 105.0 degrees west, 3 miles out. The helicopter descended. Wind reached 90 miles per hour. Visibility, 50 feet. Rick relied on GPS, but GPS was losing signal too. No instruments, just instinct. 10 minutes later, he saw something below. Plane wreckage, broken in two and 200 feet away. Another wreckage. Helicopter. Jake's helicopter. Rick's breath caught. Rick brought the helicopter close to the wreckage, but there was no flat area to land. Everything was rocky, snowy, sloped. I have to land. No other choice. Rick found a small flat area, 30 feet wide. The helicopter was 35 feet wide. Risky. But I have to. He descended slowly. Snow scattered from the rotors. The helicopter touched ground. A slide. The helicopter skidded right. Rick hit the throttle. Rotors accelerated. The helicopter stopped. I did it. He shut down the engine, got out. The wind almost knocked him over. Temperature, minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Hypothermia in 30 minutes. I have to find Jake. Rick ran to Jake's crashed helicopter. The helicopter was on its side. Windows shattered. Inside, 4 people. Jake was unconscious in the pilot seat, blood on his head. But he was breathing. Co-pilot Sarah had a broken leg. She was conscious. Who are you? Jake's father. I came to save you. 2 paramedics in the back were freezing. One unconscious, the other semi-conscious. Rick checked Jake. Pulse, weak but present. Body temperature, 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Onset of hypothermia, not much time. Rick pulled Jake from the helicopter, wrapped him in a thermal blanket. Then Sarah, then the paramedics. But he had to go to the plane wreckage. Maybe there were survivors. Rick ran to the plane. The front section was completely destroyed. Inside, bodies, 38 people, all killed on impact. The rear section was better, but the people inside, frozen. Rick checked every seat, 37 people, all dead, frozen, but in the very back, movement, a man, 40s, shaking, alive. Help me, Rick ran over. I'm helping you. How many more alive? The man pointed. 6 more people. Rick found them. 6 people, all freezing but alive. Total, 7 passengers plus Jake's crew, 4 people, equals 11 alive. Rick returned to his helicopter. But there was a problem. The helicopter could only hold 6 people, and there were 11 people. I have to make 2 trips. First group, Jake, most critical. Sarah, injured. 2 paramedics, 2 passengers. Total, 6. He carried them to the helicopter, wrapped them in thermal blankets, turned on the heater. I'll be back. 30 minutes, he told the remaining 5 passengers. Hold each other, keep moving, don't freeze. He started the helicopter, took off. Flying in the storm was hell. But Rick, with 40 years of experience, found his way. 45 minutes later, he arrived at the hospital in Colorado Springs. Emergency room was ready. Jake was immediately taken to intensive care. Sarah and the others were treated. A doctor came to Rick. Your son's lucky. If you'd arrived an hour later, he would have frozen to death. Rick just nodded. 5 more people out there. I'm going back. "Sir, weather's still bad. I'm going." Rick returned. But the weather had gotten even worse. Wind, 100 miles per hour. Visibility, 30 feet. When he reached the wreckage, the 5 passengers were still alive. Barely. He carried them to the helicopter, warmed them, and took off again. But this time, the helicopter was struggling. Fuel was low. Engine was shaking. "Come on, girl," Rick said to the helicopter. "One more time." When the helicopter reached the hospital, the fuel gauge read 0. Engine stopped. But the helicopter was on the tarmac. The 5 passengers were taken to the hospital, all saved. Rick got out of the helicopter. His legs were shaking. He was freezing. But he was standing. Major Henderson ran over. "Rick, you did it! You saved 11 people!" Rick just nodded. "Where's Jake?" "Intensive care. Stable." Rick ran to the ICU. Jake lay in bed, his eyes open, weak but conscious. "Dad," Rick sat beside his son, held his hand. "I'm here, son." You saved me." "Of course I saved you. I promised you. I'll always protect you." Jake's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Dad," Rick smiled. "You're my son. Always." The next day, a press conference was held. Major Henderson introduced Rick. "Ladies and gentlemen, this man is Captain Richard Callahan, 68 years old, retired CSAR pilot. Last night, alone, in minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit, in 100 miles per hour winds, he saved 11 people. He made 2 trips. He saved his own son and 10 other people." The crowd gave a standing ovation. A journalist asked, "Captain Callahan, weren't you afraid?" Rick thought, "I was afraid, but my son was out there. Fear couldn't stop me." 6 months later, Jake had fully recovered. He returned to active duty. Rick and Jake hiked together in the Colorado mountains. "Dad," Jake said, "I'm proud of you." Rick smiled. "I'm proud of you too, son." They watched the sunset together. Father and son. Together. If Rick Callahan's story moved you, subscribe to Veterans Tales. Like this video, share in the comments what you would do for your family. A father will do anything for his son. Do you have a similar experience? Share in the comments. See you in the next story.